Hello and welcome to the Lanfest live stream on esports and team gaming. Uh, are we 100% live?
Yes.
All right. I am very excited to be here with everyone. My name is Tessa Merrow, and I am in the software engineering/tech field. I've been gaming since 1995 because my dad is an avid gamer and, of course, got me into it as he was building computers and he's a computer engineer. And because I've been going to LAN parties since 2006, I am a huge fan of Lanfest and started volunteering for the past year with events and tournament related activities. Here I have a few special guests. Chris, Ian, and Ahman, we're going to go around the table and do a introduction. Tell me, what's your experience with esports? What do you do now? Maybe how you got into it, um, and what your favorite game is. What genre you're the best at? FPS is my favorite genre, but it's not the genre I'm the best at. Wish it was. So we will start with Chris to the right of me. What?
Nice. It's nice to
Sorry.
meet you guys. I'm Chris Allison. I currently am serving with Lanfest as the Chief Financial Officer. My background previously is in the higher education space, and so I was one of the first schools to create a varsity esports program offering scholarships and recruiting students to play League of Legends back in 2016. I believe is when we first launched. And so really kind of got a taste of applying my background with traditional sports, lacrosse and soccer, and coaching into the collegiate space and trying to figure out what it meant to have an esports team and what that looked like and what crossed over, what didn't cross over. And I'm excited to be here with you guys today and chat about esports and team gaming.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ahman?
Yes, so I'm Ahman Green, head coach esports at Lakeland University in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Former 12-year pro in the NFL. Before that, and I coached high school football, baseball, track, and powerlifting as well for about 8-9 years after football. And then I said for me being a gamer, I've been gaming since I would say 5 years old. ColecoVision, I had Zaxxon and Donkey Kong. Those are the only two cartridges when we had physical cartridges. Kids today don't even know what that is. They some of the smarter ones do, but majority don't. I played that until I learned how to get over the wall because the wall is kind of at an odd like diagonal angle that you couldn't your perception looking at it. You didn't know which way where they're going here, but I figured it out. So that on to Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and then Xbox, and now where we're at with the X Series and PS5. So along with sports and my life with foot, along with my life in sports, then video games was right there. That was my casual time to unwind from practice, unwind from a big loss, from a big win, and some of my favorite games. Man, I'll start with the genres of like RPGs. I would have to say, man, like the old school RPG, Legend of Zelda, the original. That game, I remember learning all the little details you need to do, and learning how to find the little items that you need, and beating the boss and Ganon, and rescuing Zelda. Oh yeah, got nothing, no achievement, and until now, Xbox now, PlayStation, you get that little achievement on the screen. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. I say so. That's RPG shooter. I would say probably Halo. That's my favorite. I say yeah. I say line of games there from three. I'll say all. I played all of them. One, two, three, and then ODST, Reach, Guardians 5, and then just waiting patiently for Infinite. I'm glad they took their time to push it back to make sure we get the full game and no glitching and no errors or anything like that. So I appreciate Microsoft and the other developers for doing that, being smart in the game there. And then sports games, of course, Madden. That's my top sports game that I play. I do dibble with FIFA. I'm not great at it, but I like to mess around to get good at it. And then fighting games, I'm between Tekken and Smash Bros. And Smash Bros. is in there because of my students and who I coach at Lakeland. That's a part of our games to play that are competitive leagues that are out there. So my favorite characters that I roll with is Yoshi and Kirby, and I say the easy go to is Mecha Knight too. He's a fast guy. He can hit you with quick power up, power down moves there. And trying to think, I'm just and I just got into me being a coach in the last year and a half, just getting into League of Legends, playing TFT quite a bit, understanding how the how the champions work with the buffs and all that, and helping to coach my players. So obviously I got to know the game somewhat. So I've been playing that off and on for the past year now. But really, I'm a gamer. If it's on a tablet, if it's on a console, if it's on PC, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna learn it, and I'm gonna most likely have fun because it's a video game.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. You know what? We would love to hear a lot of the tie between sports and playing with a team versus esports and playing with a team, and how the similarities are, maybe some differences. And I think people are going to really realize like how important it is with the whole team communication and being able to work with each other really well.
Exactly, it's a big connection there. So we could talk. I could definitely talk about that later.
All right. And how about Ian?
So my name is Ian LaForce. I'm just gonna start off with my favorite game. Honestly, I grew up on the Sega Genesis. We had one of the first set of Sega Genesis that released in Japan. It was a little bit before my time, but I grew up on the classics of Sega Genesis. Tons of Sonic. My brothers played the snot out of that, and I was playing Doom by the time I was probably 6. Some parents might not agree with that choice, but I was playing Doom at 6 years old, so I'm an FPS PC player, to heart, and but my cold hard favorite has got to be Counter-Strike. I've been playing it since it was a disc. Kids nowadays don't even know what discs are. If it's not
Agreed.
downloadable, they don't know what it is. They're like, oh, what is that? It's like looking at a VHS for them. So. I started playing Counter-Strike in 1.5 when it was a mod, before Steam was even invented. And then moving in, my esports career started in Counter-Strike Source. Was when I got my very first contract. So that was, oh my gosh, I think I was 14 or 15 when I got my first contract. Played on a main team. Has since been abolished and doesn't exist. But yeah, I'm, wife, kids, happy family, but avid gamer. Been through a few different teams, ran an organization, helped run an organization, and now I'm a current captain and in-game leader for a Counter-Strike team right now, participating in ESCA season 36.
Very nice. Thank you, Ian. So, talking to the stream, if anyone comes up with any questions at any time, feel free to ask. I will be paying attention to the chat and we'll do our best to answer if it is applicable. Otherwise, we're going to just do a Q&A, and I will start with some questions for our guests here. Well, someone said, CSGO for the win. Yes, I've put a lot of hours into Counter-Strike back in the days, but I quit before CS:GO came out to take a little break from gaming. So I guess the first question would be, how did you even get into the whole esports area, or maybe Ahman, for you, how did you get into football, and then what made you kind of change routes into esports? So
Um,
maybe I'll start with Ahman and then Chris Ian.
okay. Thank you, Teresa. Or Tessa, sorry, Tessa. So also with Chris, I'm on the same committee of Lanfest as well as one of the coordinators, helping out on planning the events coming in 2021 and 2022. But how I say once I got done with football, it was something I knew I had to do was find the next thing, to keep myself busy because I was obviously busy being a pro athlete now. You know, now it's find something else to keep me from annoying the heck out of my wife sitting here in the basement gaming all the time, all hours of the night.
You have to get
And,
her
and
into it too.
yeah, that too. I have it a little bit. Her favorite games. We even though she's old school, so I stick her into some Frogger every now and then. I got her playing a little bit of Mario Kart 8 the Mario Kart 8. So it was in that first year. I retired in 2009. So from 2000, I say no, actually my official year was 2011 actually because I played in the UFL, which is like another league that was at that time. It only lasted a couple of years, but after the 2010 season for that league, and then 11 from 10 to 11, I had time, and that time was one spent with my family, married, 5 kids, 3 girls and 4 girls and 1 boy. So getting connected back in them at that time when I retired, my stepson and my daughter and one of my stepdaughters, so 3 of them were in high school. So getting reconnected with them, going to their high school, football, track events, softball events, and just being back there, being a family unit again, which I love. And so that was awesome. And then that was about a year and a half, and I was mostly home. I was the daddy on duty, picking up, cleaning up around the house, getting stuff ready for, going to watch the powerlifting event at 8 in the morning. That was a 2-hour drive, doing that stuff, it was great. And then probably, like I said, about a year or so went by, a year and a half. And then, because after we would come home, I would just either, annoy my wife with things and get her to watch horror movies or play video games. And she's like, all right, you got to get a job. You got to do something outside the house. It sounded like my it sounded like my mom when I was a kid, because I would be in the house, I would clean my room, wash the dishes, but then I'd be in my room just being a kid, messing around, breaking, sounding stuff like things are breaking. And she's like, "What are you doing in this room? You got to go outside for a couple hours, please." So it was the same conversation me and my wife. She's like, "You got to find a job.
I
I
I
love you,
I see
but you
that
got to
I
go."
see that a lot. Since I'm in the tech field, and a big network of mine are all in Silicon Valley tech companies where, when you get hired, you get equity stocks. And a lot of my friends end up retiring right when they hit 30 or in their young 30s. And I'm getting texts saying, I'm so bored, like I don't know what to do all day. I'm like, play video games. Like you can kill a lot of hours playing video games retired at 30. Like they
Yep.
don't know what to do. Like read more books. I've read everything I can find to read. Um, good times. So you said you have 5 kids. Are you going to turn them all into gamers?
I could only get one, and that was
Oh,
the boy. He's a Madden player, NBA 2K player, plays a little bit of Halo and Call of Duty with me from time to time.
nice.
But the girls, I found out. So I have one daughter. She ended up going to college down in the Houston area, Prairie View A&M, and now she moved back to. She lived with her mom, and she lived in that. She's back in Dallas now, has her own apartment, and she has a boyfriend that plays UFC 3 and 4 and all that. So I'm like, oh, she plays a
Ooh.
little bit of UFC. So fighting, a little best fighting game area. And then one of her friends that I also knew when they were younger, they ran track together. Her name's Chelsea. She plays Call of Duty. So me and Chelsea been playing Call of Duty online. Now I gotta find out my daughter's boyfriend, see if he's any good at UFC. Hopefully if he could beat me, then I know he's fine. 'Cause
That's
so
the
that's
betting system is video games nowadays.
exactly. I could test them there. But to the other part of your question, Tessa, was so yeah, once I did the family, I just got reconnected and then found I knew I needed to go somewhere, my next step, and I just like go with my passion. My passion was coaching, so that's where the high school sports started, football, baseball, track and powerlifting. So that was definitely obviously my wheelhouse coming from the football field. But then another passion, I'm watching I'm playing video games, I'm watching Xbox Live, doing their little, previews of stuff. I began going out to the conventions, E3, DreamHack, Comic Con. I say E3 and Comic Con were my 2 main conventions that I did once I told myself I'm gonna retire from football. I'll have time I could do this. And I did. And that's when I started basically, from the people that were asking me to do events as a player, like Ubisoft, Microsoft, EA was saying, now I was smart and I said, you know what, I'm gonna turn these events that they pay me to do to see what, I can ask about potential job options or opportunities because of what I did as a player, but then what I know about gaming, the passion I have behind it that I could bring into the game. But right now, at that moment, wasn't no big call and draw for coaches at that time. So that was like between 2011, 2012. There were team organizations around there, but there wasn't a big saying that we need coaches, we need instructors, we need somebody that knows how to help manage a team. That wasn't big until probably more like 2015, 16. That's when the organizations kind of hit mainstream, and then esports basically it was on the incline. And I remember watching an event, the X Games, and at the X Games, I remember, I'm not sure if they still do it today, but I know it was a Halo tournament within the X Games. And I remember watching two teams go at it. I can't remember the names right now, but I know the player. It was watching this one player who's one of the best Halo pros out there, Lethal. He was playing on his team, and he got into an inter squad dispute during the X Games tournament and jumped teams during the tournament. And I'm like reading this article. I'm like, wait a minute. I was like,
Whoa.
so that's like me if I was, playing for Green Bay and I say, you know what, I get an argument with my quarterback, with Brett, or with the head coach Mike Sherman or Mike McCarthy. You know what? I'm gonna go play with the Bears this weekend, and we play them this weekend. I'm gonna play y'all. It's like I couldn't do that. That's so I'm like that kind of like was like my aha moment. Like, okay, esports needs accountability. Esports needs teamwork and camaraderie to be built. That is not teamwork. You don't leave your team to play against your team that you just left in the same event. So I started just making phone calls from those people, like I mentioned, that I knew at the companies, but then running into different folks in the industry at these cons, and made me a business card. Just put the basics on there, my name, my address, email, and then things started just falling in place. And people really, was like, you play football, which do you know video games? And then I would go down how I introduce myself here. Then they'd be like, oh yeah, you're a gamer. Once I said that, they'd be like, okay, it's good, because everybody knows that we tough gamers. We will test you. We'll see what you know. See if you're legit. If you're what you say is real. We'll find out either by asking you questions about a game, or just sitting down, putting a controller in your hand, or the mouse and PC at your controls. Be like, all right, play me in CS:GO. What you got? Play me in some Halo. Let's see what you got. That's what you do, and it's a good way to
You're
find
like,
out.
bring it on. Let's do this.
That's true, because I do it all the time. People are like, "Oh, I'll 1v1 you," and I'm like, "I got a server. Let's go." And then they're like, "Wait." I'm like, "Okay, shh."
Right. Exactly. So it was, once that started to happen for myself, that's when I was picking up steam, just to put connections, conversations, and following up with emails, and then one thing led to another. And then I remember doing my first shoutcast for a Gears of War tournament and in New York at the Microsoft studio that really nobody knows about, but then everybody does know about it. It's like right above the Microsoft store off of Fifth Ave. And I did it with Blaze. I did it with a Golden Boy and Fallout, and those are all Twitch names. I say is Alex Mendez, and then I forgot that. I can't think of it right now. I'm on the spot, putting myself on the spot. Just can't remember the other two guys' names, but I know their gamer names. It's Fallout. It was Blaze for Gears of War tournament. And downstairs, it was Larry Ridley doing a Madden tournament, and I crossed paths with him. We exchanged information because he was one of the voices on Madden 15 and 16. And just the ball started rolling from there. And I met guys along the way, young ladies as well, helping me just connect the dots to get my passion. Because, like I said, once they knew that I was a legit gamer, I just wasn't the next celebrity coming in trying to boast that they know gaming, they know this because of where they, because of their stardom. That no, he is a gamer. He's real. He plays it. He talks it. He can shout. He's shoutcast Madden. He shoutcast Halo. He shoutcast Gears of War. That's when I knew this is it for me. Now I just got to just keep working to hopefully the opportunity will sprout up for me somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Well, after we finish our intros, I'll go ahead and check what the questions are. I know there's a few questions in chat. So, Chris, what got you into esports? What's the experience with that?
Yeah, in the first intro, I completely forgot the second half of your question. So I'll add a little bit in of the history, because that really feeds into what turned me on to esports. But I mean, my first console was a used Atari, and so Pitfall and like the really, really old school Atari games are my initial roots, and then moved into Sega Genesis and hundreds of hours of Sonic, those types of games. Got a Jaguar for a little while. Road Rash was like my jam. And then moved into Xbox and became an Xbox guy. And I played console primarily all the way up until moving into higher education and starting to research and think about starting an esports program. And that's when the guys were like, dude, you have to switch to PC. Like you have to be a part of the PC master race. Like that's if you're going to compete, you got to build a PC.
Yeah.
I've heard that comment before. A lot of my PC buddies.
It's hard. It's hard because my loyalty is to the console world. That's where my profile and like all those achievements that you're talking about, Ahman, like that's where they live. They're not in Steam. But in college, so in like 2004, we decided we were going to start Halo 1 intramurals on our campus. And so we would take a 100-foot Ethernet cable, pop the windows out of our dormitory rooms, and swing the cable on the outside of the dorm to other places so that you could have a hard connection and actually play against each other from your own rooms. And so that, for me, created this kind of this like core of, man, there's a camaraderie that can be built through games that kind of transcends the online interaction and really moves into physical space as well. So as I got into higher ed, I worked in Res Life for my first year in a dormitory. Then I took over as the head of the Wellness and Sports Center. And I mean, that was cool, but I missed playing video games. I was like, there's got to be a way I can play video games at work. Like, how do I figure out how to make this happen? And about that time is when the very first summit for what is now the National Association of Collegiate Esports, NACE, happened. I think it was called like KESPA or something at the very first summit. Before they realized, hey, there's a better name out there for us. And so got involved in those conversations and, launched the 10th program in the country. And the best day of work for me was when I was sitting in my office playing a ranked game of League, because I was learning the game. I'm a Zyra one trick. And the head of our facilities walked in and was like, hey, Chris, I need you. And I was like, I can get you in 20 minutes. I'm in a ranked game right now. I'm sorry. Like I'm doing research for my team right now. And he just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And then he walked away and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get fired. This is amazing. So
I love it.
I've had those moments, Chris, already.
You're just like, oh my gosh, I should be fired right now, but I'm not, because this is actually my job. Like, this is the coolest thing in the world.
Exactly.
All right, we will jump to Ian. My eyes is watering, so it looks like I'm crying. Like wiping.
I mean, it was a moving story.
It's so inspiring. Oh my!
It was very moving.
So inspirational, Tessa.
I threw in my contacts last minute, and like there's like a piece of like dust on it. I'll survive. And how about you, Ian? Your experience with esports, what got you there?
So funny enough, I didn't start going to LANs until I was probably 15. I was in competitive gaming probably around 12 or 13 was playing 1.6 in Source, pushing into the competitive scene, back when ESEA was just starting, Curse was just kind of starting. It was like that big switch in Counter-Strike when Curse was falling off and ESEA was coming in, and then you had, smaller companies like Civo before Faceit was even a thought in anyone's mind. And it was about that time that I actually met who is now the ex-coach of Team Liquid, Adren, Eric Hogue. I've played with him and against him. I played with Anger. They used to be teammates on the old Curse team. And I asked them, a bunch of questions, after the match that we played. I randomly got put into a puck with them, and it was honestly the coolest experience ever to be in a game with real professionals that were, at the time, and even still now, in my opinion, some of the best players of in North America. And that was kind of what inspired me to keep pushing through to, be an esports competitor. And so, I asked them, I'm like, well, how do I get into this? It's really hard right now, because before we didn't have the technology that we do now, where, you have all these numerous places where you can post that you're a player and that you're looking for a team. And, we have so many resources nowadays, but back then it was so much harder, because you're looking at 14 years ago. And then it was just so different than it is now. You had to post on the forum and you had to track people down. And really it just came down to, getting people to give me a shot, because I didn't have the background. I was 13 years old. No one's going to look at a 13-year-old and be like, oh man, yeah, this guy's going to have some skills. But, I got into a tryout, and then that just honestly went from one thing to another. And I never had the best of PCs, but I made it work, and that's definitely something that I think is in our list of things I definitely want to cover later, of how important that can be. But I attended my first LAN when I was 15. It was actually the Colorado Lanfest was my very first LAN, and I still remember I was looking for a team for the CS:GO tournament that they were having, and some of the guys were like, hey, we're looking for a fifth. Do you want to come play? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there anyway. And sure enough, we lost. So we lost our first match, and I was like, man, this is kind of a bummer. But then we went through the entire lower bracket, won out all the way across, and ended up going against the admin team in the grand final of a best of 3. And we lost our first game, either won or lost. And basically we went 1-1, and it was in our third map. And in the very last round of the game, it was 15-14. We were up one round, and it was a 1v1, me versus the literal director of the event. So, for me, I was like, oh my God, if I choke this is going to be really bad for me. And I was on this old Dell Inspiron 20 frames a second in CSGO, which was absolutely not okay. And on a 17-inch, TV. And I ended up winning, and I got that trophy, and everything just kind of started to flow from there. I hadn't really made a name for myself in Source like I wanted to. I was on a no-name main team. We didn't really go anywhere, but it was a contract, so it was a start. And then after that LAN, I used it as a portfolio. Took some of the footage that I recorded from demos and used it for future teams, and helped run teams, helped run my own. Tried to start my own organization, but that's really hard to do when you don't have a really good support team of people to help you run it and build those other teams that go with it, like Call of Duty, or even just sports games. Madden is huge in the esports world, and I don't honestly think that it gets enough attention compared to FPS games, or League of Legends, or Dota 2, or anything like that. So that kind of fell apart. And then the big thing is not being discouraged, and I wasn't. I was like, okay, I'm going to keep trying. And here I am now, again, a captain and in-game leader of a CS:GO team competing in ESEA, and now working for Lanfest as a volunteer. I'm actually the I say it all the time and I can't remember what it is. Discord community manager. There we go. And that's been a really great experience too. And that's a whole nother side of gaming that I wish more people could see. And I really love what Lanfest is doing, being able to, push this side of gaming. And I think COVID is really, as negative as COVID has been, it's so helpful for Lanfest as a whole to show people that there's this other world out there of gaming and esports, and Lanfest putting it all together to go, look, this is what we have, this is what we can do, but we have more. You just don't know it yet, and so that's kind of just been my journey so far.
I love it, and I'm glad we're all part of Landfest in different ways, keeping the organization strong and successful with all of the volunteers. So I'm going to go ahead and jump straight to some of the questions from the Twitch chat. And since we started talking about kids and gaming, there's a few parents that are asking, how do I get my 10-year-old into esports? How do I even get them uh, like if there's any kind of advice for kids, and that's something I've been working on. When I had kids, like around 2009, I had to take a break from gaming, but I'm like, I'm going to turn my kids into gamers. They're going to be esports players. I got them gaming rigs when they were 6, and I let them play a lot of hours of games every day. And my son's now 11, and he plays like a professional, but not there yet when it comes to, he still has a lot to learn when it comes to working with a team. And and I think that's like the biggest thing, being able to communicate effectively to be able to have teams even want him to play. So I guess I'll leave it to anyone who wants to answer that question.
Yes, I mean, I think you nailed it. Being good at the game is step one, but in an industry that right now is still relatively young, people that are in middle school right now, you think you've got another 5-6 years. Think about where the industry will be then. Things will be even more refined. The bar will be even higher as far as what it takes to be a part of a team. And I think it's important that we help young people that want to go into esports and want to play, that we help them be realistic about what that's going to take. Because it's not just about putting hours in. It is about learning communication skills, leadership skills. If you're not the leader, like how do you follow? How do you follow calls? How do you support? How do you fill your role? All of those things are essential. And I think, for me, it's important to have some crossover experience as well. So encouraging kids to get involved in other activities that are going to help them grow and kind of hone in on those skills. And then helping them make that connection of how those skills transition into gaming and esports, and just kind of walking with them through that process.
I like that. That can bring us in the topic of team building and and working together and strategizing together, and how to communicate in a way that helps bring your team to success.
Exactly.
So and just to kind of add on to that a little bit, I'm not that far past where a lot of where these kids are starting, because I started about that same age. Like I said, I started playing Doom when I was 6-7 years old, but that's where it starts. And I think the biggest thing to help your kids is to encourage them. Don't push them away from it, that it's a bad thing. I love my parents to death, but my dad told me professional gaming will never be a thing. And I actually love the fact that I can tell him, you were wrong, because I knew that professional gaming was going to explode, because anything that can fuel the economy, let's just be honest here, anything that will fuel the economy will be successful. It will grow. And especially gaming. You have millions of people across the world that play video games. Don't discourage them. Tell them, yes.
My prediction is in the next decade, esports will be just as popular as sports in middle school, high school. It's going to be like a whole a worldwide thing. And I'm trying to prepare my kids to be able to join esports team and be able to get a college scholarship over that. Right now, college, there isn't much with college scholarships, and there's not very many colleges offering that. But in a decade, things are going to change rapidly.
Absolutely. They already are. You look at when esports first came about, it wasn't even thought of to be publicized on TV. And you look at like Counter-Strike, for example, E-League. When E-League came out, that was huge. They made a contract with TBS to put esports on TV. It was never heard of before, until the DirecTV Gaming Invitational, and that was so many years prior to that. And I always watched those. That was when Counter-Strike Source was huge, was when they had the DirecTV Gaming Invitational. The Quake 4 Championship Series was in that too, and after DirecTV stopped doing that, there was nothing that was televised, and it wasn't nearly as big as it has become, and it's just going to continue to grow. But my advice for parents is to support your kids in what they love and what they enjoy, because that's what they're going to strive to do, is what they love and enjoy, whether you support them or not. But if you support them, it's going to push them that much harder to be successful, to do the best that they can, not only for themselves, but for their future. Because really that's what's important.
And to even support them more, watch professional teams on Twitch or any kind of streaming platform.
On YouTube.
Exactly. Watch
Yeah.
professionals stream and have conversations about it with your child. Like, look what they're doing right. This is why they won that round, and kind of like study it with them and have open conversations about it.
And I'll say, Tessa, something that all three of you already touched on is Chris started it with the remark of saying, having the kid pick the game, or when they're selecting games. And it was something that I did, my mom and dad did with me with traditional sports, and I did with my kids too with traditional sports. I said, okay, when it was time to sign up for football season, t-ball, baseball, track, all right, let's sign up, or if you want to do this season, this is about to start. The one thing is, let's start it, but we're not going to quit. We're going to, even if you might not like it, we're going to at least finish. At least now you don't like it. That is huge. Finding out what they like and don't like. And for me, obviously, it was everything I played. I loved it. I don't know what type of, I was just one of them kids. I wanted to be moving and active. So no matter if it was football, baseball, being a swimmer, riding my bike, I wanted to do it. And then I'll say it was another point I wanted to bring up. Was real big. I believe Ian, you kind of hit on it, is when they get in and all three kind of touched on it. It's just when you get in that team environment and building where that player understands their role within that team environment. Because you think about this now, and think about when we were kids, when we got that system, if it was the ColecoVision, the Sega Genesis, the PlayStation, whatever it was just us and the TV and the controller in our hand. Our parent, some of our background didn't have our parents sitting behind us and telling us what to do and not to do playing the game. So they didn't have that encouragement, or they didn't have that support when you lost. Because I remember my dad, he was in IT, and every now and then he would sit over my shoulder and watch me play. And so he would give me a couple tips here and there playing, a game. I remember one time he wasn't sitting over my shoulder, not my mom either. I was sitting in my room playing Madden on I believe it was Sega Genesis, and I had my first and only rage in a game. I threw my controller down, it broke. My mom comes into my room, boy, what's going on? What's all that noise? And she looks at the controller and she's like, well, if you break it, you buy it. We're not buying you another one. I'm like, and I just froze, like, oh my goodness. I'm like, and the A button had popped out. That's how hard I threw it. The A button popped out. So I went to my dad's toolbox and I grabbed the electrical tape. I took the screwdriver, opened the controller up, pieced it back together with the electrical tape and some crazy glue. Was like, okay, I can't get mad at this because if I break this, then I can't do nothing about it. I don't have a job. I'm 10 years old. It ain't happening. So that was like a big moment for me, because I realized how you had to keep your composure. Not only I was playing football, I was playing flag football at the time. I was playing overhand pitch baseball at that time, which I knew how to take a loss there. But then in this world, my mom and dad not hovering over me, or a coach not hovering over me, I just, I raged. But then I found out, obviously, from my mom, was like, hey, you break that, you got to buy that. That right there brought a reality to me that even gamers today, they don't understand. They think it's okay to rage. That is a thing. You see the pros, you see popular streamers post on their Instagram, post on their Twitter, them raging, throwing the monitor, throwing the PC out the window. It's like, man, that's like $2-3 grand going out the window.
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Right. And so it then fosters that part of the game that the players think it's okay to do that. And what I've done at my facility on Lakeland's campus is like, okay, if you want to rage, I say the same thing. You break it, you buy it. If you cuss, you got push-ups, or you got wall sits, or you got something physical that you may not like, because I'm an athlete, I know a lot of things that could bring pain to you without without me inflicting physical pain to you.
Because we've been through that. We know.
Yeah,
I played
so
football in high school. I didn't like punishments.
right. And so I brought that in knowing that we're going to be streaming on somebody's Twitch channel, our own. We're going to be streaming on College COD. We're going to be streaming on the NACE Esports channel. So they don't want to hear team banter where you're dropping the F-bomb or some other foul word, because these are, even though this is collegiate, there might be a team org manager, CEO watching our team play, knowing that you're a good player, but then you're going off on your teammates. You're saying foul words. You're not listening to instructions from your team captain or your team coach. And that will then be taken as, okay, this player, even though he's good, it's going to be, a little work to get him into the understanding the team part of it. But if it starts at a young age, then that player has a better success when he gets to the high school level, when he or she gets to the college level, pro level, when they can adapt, they know how to be there, they know how to talk, and they know how to act among the team environment. They know their role. If they're not the team captain, they know they got to listen to the team captain when they're talking about strategy in game to make sure they get to the right location. And that's where we see now little leagues popping up. I've heard of Minecraft little leagues, Fortnite little leagues for ages, I would say 3rd grade to 6th grade around in Wisconsin. So I know it's going out on the East Coast and the West Coast. I know those areas down south in Texas and Georgia and Florida. I'm pretty sure if it's happening in Wisconsin, I know it's doing there, which is great because now these kids, just like I had in flag football, I had a coach. He was coaching me the skills of being a running back, being a defensive end, holding the ball or stripping the ball. And now the same thing's happening for players learning Minecraft, learning Overwatch, learning Fortnite, having that coach right there over your shoulder to tell you when you need to push and when you need to not, when you need to stay with your team and when you need to, then go and be and frag out and help the team win or something like that. But that's the difference is coming to now is what I see as a parent and as a coach.
Yeah, and a couple things on that too. So it kind of leads into like the toxicity of video games nowadays. How the professional streamers and professional players, tend to act. Of course, there's the friendly banter that in the end they're going to shake hands, they're going to go their separate ways. They're all friends, right? It looks toxic, but it's really not. The thing that's kind of hurting the gaming community as a whole, in my opinion, is the toxic streamers that are being negative and making it seem like this is exactly how you should be, and then you go to solo queue a game like for Counter-Strike or even Valorant. I mean, I've solo queued both, and Tessa, we talked on this a little bit yesterday. Solo queue, and sometimes it is just the worst experience possible, and it's just, oh, you're this, you're that, and it's not even, minor things. I mean, some people try and do personal attacks on you. They'll look up your Steam profile, pull your name, and if it's on there, and they'll just start attacking you. And I just have to say, some of the kids nowadays could not handle some of the lobbies that we've been through our times, depending on our games.
We all have some thick skin going on. That's hardcore gamers.
We've had to, and the thing is, as parents, you have to help them not be that way, and that can be hard because when they're younger, they're immature, they're still learning, they're still growing as people and developing as young boys and girls. But you have to be that influence to in the end say, hey, that's not okay. We don't act like that. Friendly banter is okay, but don't attack someone. Don't try and put them down.
I've been training my kids what is okay for trolling and what is not okay for trolling. And sometimes I join in and bring myself down to their level and troll with them, like just ridiculous stuff like screaming in the microphone, which like it's not something I do, but it's just so much fun when you're 10 years old. And like, you know what? Screw it. Sometimes I just do it.
Yeah, I've finished off and gotten quite a few forfeits in Rocket League from just the well-placed "what a save" comment once the other team's starting to melt down. But so at our school we were a religious institution, so we had like super high student conduct bars for our streams and those types of things.
Mhm.
And so I spend a lot of time looking at what causes tilt and why are my controllers losing, or why are my players losing control. And one of the things, when you think about tilt and toxicity typically come from getting stuck in the past on an event that just happened, right? Like something really pissed you off, or something happened, or you made a mistake, and you get stuck focused on what just happened. And when your mind leaves the present moment, your performance suffers, the toxicity comes out. And so the act and training of mindfulness exercises, while it feels really weird to gamers to talk about mindfulness and being present in the moment, like we really did find that is the solution and the cure for tilt, teaching someone to maintain their presence in the moment and focus on what needs to happen. And so I think, even thinking about, youth, teaching them skills like mindfulness, how to stay present in the moment, how to control their emotions, how to be strategic about things like friendly banter and when is it okay, when is it over the line. Those are all really important in creating a positive culture for gaming, and creating, for those that want to compete, the ability to maintain themselves and keep more control of themselves at those higher levels.
And one thing too, I wanted to touch on, Ahman, you brought up that your kids use a curse word, you make them do like push-ups or sit-ups or anything like that, and that kind of goes into a question that I actually saw in the Twitch chat, and someone asked about keeping their kids active. Probably one of the biggest things that I've learned over my entire, just my life in general playing video games. It's fun to sit and play a video game for hours on end. And we've learned with COVID how, negative of an effect that can have on your body. Just, by, like, for me personally, I'm only out of work because I have a shoulder injury. So I've been out of work for about 2 years because of that. And the best way to combat it just sitting there is your body needs to be healthy so that your mind can continue to process things properly. So when you are playing, and that goes for anything, and it's not even just gaming, this is just life in general, to have a solid mindset and to not, like in our situation of COVID, to help combating going into a negative depressive state or even just a, toxic mentality, create a workout regimen. The younger the kid, the lighter the regimen, but create something for them to keep them active, because that's going to help their mind, which also helps, hand-eye coordination. It's, everything just kind of goes together hand in hand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So yeah, to your point, Ian there. So what I have between the demerits, push-ups or planks or wall sits, we was able back in fall of 2020 have a fall camp, and we had a 2-week training camp, and some of the kids I had recruited, they were coming in as a true freshman, was like, we know you play football, coach, where is this going? When I said 2-a-days, they were like, are we gonna be hitting, are we gonna be lifting heavy weights and gaming? I'm like, no, I say, well, yeah, we're gonna be in the weight room. Part of it is building that team camaraderie, that next family that you're gonna have. And then, yeah, and two, like you just mentioned, Ian, you're going to have that general good health, because that general good health is going to help you play a little bit better, able to get rest, eat right, and then basically get the blood flow. That's what I say a lot, get the blood flow. And something I started doing this semester, spring semester, and we had a short training camp about 3 weeks ago. So after, practice starts, we had our training camp morning. Practice started at 9 a.m. and went to 12. And once they started, I inputted what I learned from a guy by the name of Dr. Corey. He does a stream. He has a YouTube channel where all his videos are. It's called Esports Healthcare, and it's basically teaching gamers how to take care of themselves physically. And what he has is he has a gamer warm up to warm up your hands and your forearms, for obviously PC gamers and controller gamers. And then he has little workout regimens you could do for your fingers to make them better and dexterity stronger, things like
Ooh.
that. And so I basically I introduced it in the fall, where I just did it a few times during camp. But then now with the spring, and I saw how the reaction was, it was a lot of, yeah, this is cool. And other ones like, whatever. But now it's like, all right, now it's mandatory. We do it every practice. We do the warm up for our hands and our forearms and our fingers. And then we're going to have the team workout. And the toughest thing about the team workout was obviously being at the college level. Kids have, they have a full schedule of classes. And then we're a D3 school, so the kids can work year round. So we call it our co-op program. So obviously they have a work schedule too. So what I said to them, I said, well, we're going to do more of an accountability thing. I'm gonna trust you. You trust me. I'm gonna put a sign up sheet in the weight room, and if you sign up, if you sign into that sign up sheet, you telling me that you worked out. So you got to be honest about it. Even though I can't be there supervising you, you're a college kid. You don't want me hanging over your shoulder, but I trust you when you sign that sheet saying, Coach, I ran on the bike, or I rode the bike, I ran on the treadmill, I walked on the elliptical, the stair stepper for 45 minutes. I did core and I stretched my body out. And so you're telling me that that you did 3 times a week. And that's what I'm saying to my players. Let's get 3 mandatory workouts a week. The week into, if you want to get another one in, and that's going above and beyond. But as gamers, yes, sitting in a chair just for 2 hours or an hour, you have to get up, you got to move. So with practice, after an hour into practice, I'll be like, all right, everybody stand up, take a little, 10, 15-minute break, walk around. While y'all walking, y'all could talk strategy. Y'all could talk what happened, what you were doing before
Mhm.
you got up. Don't mean you have to get away from the game. You can still talk about it. Use the bathroom, drink some water, go outside. Well, I'm going to say go outside right now. We're in Wisconsin. It's about 12 degrees. So you go outside, cover up, and then come right back in. But it's get the blood flowing because the pros do this. I
Yeah.
was able to, for a short little bit, work. I was an influencer with I work with Temple Storm, and I went out to their California house where the PUBG team trained. And between training, that was something they had missed out. They did have a coach at one time, and then somehow with either his timing or scheduling couldn't work, but it was something they missed. They talked about working out, how fun it was. One of the guys, one of their players were really good. He said, I got really good at push-ups, and I didn't think I could do it, but now I was knocking push-ups out, and he felt the difference when they stopped doing that to now in his gameplay.
Mhm.
It fell off a little bit. They still were good overall as a team, but physically he could feel the difference when he was in shape to when he wasn't. So that's why I was like always in the back of my mind when I had that opportunity to make sure to keep that along with getting on the sticks, knowing the mechanics, binding your keyboards and all that. Hey, let's get in the weight room. Let's get the blood flow. Let's touch our toes. Let's do some push-ups if you can. If you're not, I could find something to do for it. I could figure it out. If you can't
That
do a
that
push-up, I'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
that ties into a question someone asked in chat on similarities between football and esports teams, and how does it work?
I say
And
yeah,
that's a big part of it, of course, the physical activity.
it is huge. I mean, but I say the similarities between I just say
Working with a
traditional sports.
team.
Yeah, working with
Yeah.
a team. I say traditional sport because it's not just football. I mean, because traditional sports involves football, baseball, basketball. It's any team sport. So
Hmm.
traditional sports to esports, the similarities are, and everyone has mentioned it in one shape or form, is basically one is communication. You gotta have clear communication, and something that we did this past week with my Call of Duty team, a little bit with the Overwatch team was, those are FPSs, those are big team. Well, it's a 5v5 in Overwatch, 4v4 now in Call of Duty Black Ops. And so we went over map call outs, we went over map positioning. So we went into it. We created a custom map in Call of Duty, and our team captain, along with myself, we walked through going to each hard point. Where did we set up? Where do put your trophy down, which is the system that basically knocks out a grenade. If somebody listening in don't know what a trophy system is, trust me, I didn't know 2 years ago. I wasn't a big COD player 2 years ago. Now I am. So that trophy system keeps grenades from coming in your area that you're trying to secure and detonates them mid-flight. And so knowing where to put the trophy system down, knowing when to put your field radar so you can see people coming in to the point, but then also knowing what positions to put the 4 players in, because you have 4 players. That means you have 2 eyes that can basically look each direction. So making sure you going in the right position. You're not double, 2 people looking down the same lane. If they're looking left lane, make them look right. Have one person look left lane, other person look right lane, middle or through the doorway, and be smart about that. Then also the definition of the call out, saying even if it's basic, okay, top right, somebody's top right now, or I'm one shot, what that means to a player, describing those words, because a lot of the players say the same things, but they say them differently. Some players know the map a little bit more, so they'll say the actual map room. It's in green room on the second floor. A player might not know what that means and just say, so you got to be on the same page. So talking that through, and we did that in a practice session last week with the, like I said, Call of Duty team and the Overwatch team. So doing those little things is what we had to do in the football, in the football field, in the meetings. We would sit there, and I had to know the certain audibles that Brett would say, because if I didn't know the call out, then he would get sacked. And trust me, I wanted to play for a long time, so I was not going to let number 4 get hit backside, front side, whatever. So when he said, let me see, for example, if he said, Tom told me that it's a blitzing corner from the backside. And so either I could do two things. I could just, if we were in shotgun, I could stay to his left side, and then when the ball snap, run that way, or pre-snap, do my own self motion to the right side, so I could get a little closer to pick up the DB blitzing. So it was knowing that, having those notes taken, having that information in my head, that then when come game time, I didn't have to think about it. I could just, as soon as I heard it, boom, I knew where I needed to go. Because in the practice, what I tell my players, and same thing my coaches told me, is practice where you ask the questions, where you could do the long conversation, where you could think about it. But when you're in game, it got to be instinctual. It got to be all reaction, because that reaction is time either for you or against you when you're in competition.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say video review, is something you see in traditional sports, and spending that time pregame to study the other team's film. That's something that we did on a regular basis, with our esports team. And we, from the physical preparation side, we had the privilege of having a doctorate of physical therapy school at our college. And so our team, myself included, we worked out with the doctorate of physical therapy professors twice a week. And half of our guys, so we had a roster of 10 the first year, half of our guys had played traditional sports, and half had never played any type of team sport. So it was this really strange mix of communication skills and team dynamics, and it was a really big learning curve for the people that had never had that, that team sport background. But getting together and doing physical exercises, and people getting pushed outside their comfort zones. And our team cumulatively lost about 100 pounds the first semester, which was amazing. Wow. And everyone was feeling better, and it really helped build kind of that team spirit. So being able to do the team activities other than just gameplay, I think it helped in the esports side, just like I've seen it personally help on the traditional sports side.
No, yeah, and that actually kind of touches on what I was going to lead into. A big thing with esports is structure. And you probably the biggest thing to learn is structure. One, you have to be good at the game, or at least aspiring to be, because you will sometime in the future. But you have to learn the structure. Like Counter-Strike, for example, know the map. You have Dust 2, you have T-spawn, mid, cat, long, tunnels, upper, lower, boost, goose, ramp, elevator. There's just so many callouts, and that's not even all of them. But that's
just one map.
That's one map, and that's not even all the map. Yep. There's still other side. But that leads into the structure too, like knowing. Like for me personally, as the in-game leader, I'm building the strats. I'm telling everybody where they're going, and they're going to know it ahead of time, right? I'm building this strat structure ahead of time. The thing that we practice on is peeking together, double swinging instead of swinging by yourself and then getting lit up. And anyone who watched the Valorant tournament, there was a lot of individual play, and those teams got punished for it. So, what we're working on, since we're a relatively new team, is swinging out together, 2 or 3 of us at once. That way, even if we lose one guy, we get that trade that, okay, 1 for 1, but now we have their one guy down, we can take side control, and the structure is definitely big with building chemistry. And I think that chemistry is the single most important thing that a team needs to be successful. And, a really good example of that is when I was 16, I was on a Counter-Strike team, and I was doing full-time school, full-time job, and I was on a Counter-Strike team. So my schedule was pretty busy. I wasn't sleeping a whole lot. But I built this team, and I had one person leave, and I brought in a replacement. And we weren't clicking with this new guy, and it was causing a lot of issues because he didn't want to play the way we needed him to. That was, when you bring in a fifth, you already have your structure down, because the other four of us have been playing already. We already have our practice down with these strats and all these other things. And you bring in that new person, you don't have that chemistry, but you try and build it. It doesn't always work out, but it can be a determining factor of the success of a team. And I honestly think that the chemistry is so important into structure, and what you guys do in your esports, from what I'm hearing, is you guys are building that chemistry. And it helps that they're learning it now. Unlike when I started, I didn't have that. I didn't have those coaches. I didn't have those other people that were there to help me. And that's why I really want to see these programs grow. And, I promote them anywhere that I can. I will market them until I'm blue in the face, because I want to see these things grow. I want these kids to learn early, and even just the, parents that watch these panels like this. There needs to be more of these to help parents encourage their kids and teach their kids what they need to do to be a great player, because it's not just about being skilled. There's perfect examples. Tessa and I were talking about it yesterday. There's a Counter-Strike pro by the name of Simple. He's from Ukraine, started out in Ukraine on a team, came over to North America, but because of how he was when he was younger, when he first started in the professional scene, he was toxic. He didn't work very well with his team at first. He came over to North America. People hated him. He was one of the most hated players when he came to North America, and people were literally telling him, go back to Ukraine. We don't want you here. And it was because of that toxicity that he couldn't build the chemistry with the team, because everybody already had that negative thought toward him. So when you start out toxic, people will remember. Especially when you're a professional, you start out in your career early, people will remember that, and it will haunt you for the rest of your career. I mean, he probably still hears about it. It's not as big now because he's, one of the best oppers in Counter-Strike, easily top 3 global. So, but, it still comes up, hey, remember when Simple played in NA? Nobody liked that guy. It's still in a conversation. And that just shows how, how important these things are to teach kids at a young age, and how important the work that you guys are doing is. And honestly, just on a side note, I want to thank you guys for what you're doing. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yes, thank you. I'm just letting you know we have exactly 9 minutes before we have to get cut off. I know one area I really want us to touch base on is probably the most important area is, how do you go about not waiting to be discovered as an esports player, or more like, how do you find an esports team? How do you find a team? And once you have a team, how do you find a coach? What do you do? Where are these places? How do you reach out?
So as a person who's had to do that, I think so. In Chris and Ahman, you guys can correct me if you want, but if I was in a program like you guys, I would lean on you guys, because you have the resources that you can research and everything like that. But on an individual standpoint, like I've been, use your resources, Google, or look up the leagues. If you watch Twitch at all, like Counter-Strike, for example, DreamHack, ESL, they all have their Twitch channels, right? But they're always promoting their platform. And that's the best place to start, is the platform that's being promoted. Like Counter-Strike, we have ESCA and we have Faceit. Those are the two biggest competitive platforms. They have a forum system, they have a matchmaking system, they have tournaments and hubs, clans. There's so many different things. Get into those platforms and start posting around. Hey, I have this experience. This is how long I've been playing. This is my rank. I'm looking for a team. And see who snags you up. I mean, that's what happened with me. I put out a forum post. Hey, I haven't been on a team before. Here's my rank. Give me a chance. And I always use the words, and I use this in real job interviews. My dad taught me this. You won't regret choosing me. And I always put actions behind my words. And that's the best thing that you can do. But, just put yourself out there. Don't wait to be discovered. Get yourself discovered.
Yeah. Hats off to your dad there, Ian. That's a great line right there.
He's a smart dude. I love him to death.
I would say from a coaching standpoint, where I'm finding players, and Ian, you already hit on it. I had players, because I stream personally on Mind Green TV. I had some of my players that are currently on my roster. They were my moderator and a few of my subs over the last 5 years of me streaming, and that was just like, just happened. And it was funny. So one of the players that plays Call of Duty, he, had been my mod, been one of my subs, and then once I announced on my stream, hey, I'm gonna be the Lakeland head coach of esports, he's like, what? You gonna do what? And he was former military. He had hurt his shoulder and was trying to. He was actually in the middle of making the next decision of where he's gonna go, because they put him out of. I won't say put him out, but he decided to come out of the military because of the shoulder injury, and he was kind of thinking like, where I'm gonna go next. And being 19 years old, a college age player and student or person too, was like, what's my next step? And then that just happened for him. So that was one way, obviously, get on Twitch, get on you. He was on Twitch. He was following me. Just by chance, I became the head coach, but just know that Twitch is a place to look up players and organizations, because, the leagues, NACE has an esports channel. ECAC has has a Twitch channel. Play Versus has a Twitch channel. And then other avenues as a coach that I've been introduced to since I've been a coach is a place called Gyo, is GYO.GG. And that organization has helped me, do little virtual events. We did a virtual League of Legends and Overwatch tournament back in the springtime and summer. And then another one that traditional athletes use is called Be Recruited. I've gone on Be Recruited and just basically seen dozens of profiles, 20, 30, 100 that I've been going through for leaguers, for Call of Duty players, for Madden players, for Smash Bros and Ultimate players. They put their profiles there, like Ian mentioned. You put your best clip from the best tournament, what place, where you've been ranked at in each tournament when you're playing in these tournaments, where your team finished, what are your stats. If you have a Twitch channel, put it in there. I go to the Twitch, I click on that link, and that, for traditional sports, that for me coming up, that something like that wasn't even thought of. But now as a coach, I could just click on a kid's Twitch link and then basically view them. I could see everything I want to see. I want to see their gameplay. Then I could see their personality. I could see, okay, is this kid going to fit with my players that I have on campus right now? Are they going to be toxic? Are they going to be a team player? Are they going to be? And then if they are, is just what level of toxicity where I see them at? That there's some levels that, okay, I could deal with that. I can handle that.
I can work with it.
I could work with it. I could retrain him or her a little bit to let them know this is the time you can do that. This is the time not. But then you'll see in the stream that, okay, this play, okay, I can't. That's something I know I want to keep away from. You can see it right there in the stream. So, do that stuff with Twitch and YouTube. And then there's another platform group out there. It's called UEA, United Esports Association, and they're out of Kansas City, not far from NACE as well. And there's tournaments in there from all the major games, League, Madden, 2K, FIFA, Smash Bros. I believe they have CS:GO as well. And go in those leagues, because I basically scour the film of those tournaments. I have connection with the organizers, and they send me clips of, Ahman, here's a pretty good player. He's a Smash player. Check him out. And I get those tidbits. I basically learned from what my coaches did as college coaches to recruit me. I took some of their tips. Once you get in contact with somebody, keep that contact going. And so I continue to go back to them and ask questions. And then for players at the high school level, look in your state, find out if the high school has an esports association. Like here in Wisconsin, it's the Wisconsin High School Esports Association, and most likely your high school, there's over, I didn't even know Wisconsin can have over 400 or over 150 high schools. I was like, what is that many high schools in just this state alone? That the Wisconsin Esports Association manages their seasons, their spring and fall season, and so they play League, they play CS:GO, they play Overwatch, they play Smash, they play, I believe, Fortnite. They may play Madden and FIFA. I'm not 100% sure, but I know they do most of the major FPS team shooters, and so I could just through Discord contact the president of the Wisconsin Esports Association, which I have, to set up a phone call or a Discord call just to say, hey, who are your top players? I need some League players. I need Smash players. I need Overwatch players. Can you direct me to that director or the head coach at that local high school here in Wisconsin and say, I want to set up a time to come by. And I've been able to do that over the last year, spring and summer, going to local high schools, watching their in-house tournaments or their Wisconsin Esports High School Association tournaments. Just recently, I watched watched several kids play Smash Bros at a high school, probably 30 minutes from our campus, and one of them had just signed with us too. So he's going to be an incoming freshman. He plays Overwatch and League of Legends. So it's those avenues like that. I mean, something that I know I didn't have coming up, as just a traditional athlete, and what traditional athletes and esports athletes have is just a bevy, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Geo, UEA, you go like Face It and all these leagues out there. Go there, play in them, and then like Ian said, get yourself out there. Don't be afraid, especially if you know and you have the passion to do it. Don't be afraid to put your information out there.
I
Succeed
absolutely
unless you
love
try.
that. I absolutely love that. I'm gonna actually take that advice for my kids and getting them into it. So that just about sums everything up. We are at time right now, and they're about to switch over the stream to a short break and then on to chapter championships. I want to thank everyone so much for your time being here, taking the time out of your weekend to talk about esports. I feel like there's a million other subtopics we can discuss and we can go on forever. I really enjoy this. This is like my life is video games. Don't tell my work boss that. I'm just joking. Um, but yeah, this was great. And I'm hoping we can do this again and maybe have a whole separate segment about this. So thank you so much. And yes, for the Landfest IT, go ahead and throw it to the break.
You're welcome, Tessa. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Thank you. Thank
It was
you
a
for
lot of
having
fun. Thank you, guys.
Of course.